First and foremost, thank you all for kind of tuning in this afternoon. My name is Ryan Johnson, the founder and CEO of Community. So really today I was excited to ask to be a part of this Thanksgiving Summit because I'm very, very passionate about sharing information and really helping people navigate how we can continue to build community through digital media and also through philanthropy, leveraging tools like music, entertainment, sports, and also gaming as vehicles to give back to communities of color, underserved institutions, but then also HBCUs, which are spaces that we play so heavily in. So really throughout today's session, I want to take some time to really just get like a quick background of myself. Some of you I could know, some of you, could be this could be a first time meeting. But originally, I grew up in Maryland, been in Atlanta now going on 6 years. When I first relocated to Georgia, I actually started out doing outside sales for a technology company, literally going door to door selling phone systems. And that quickly transitioned after about a year and a half or 2 years to working at an IT consulting company that was based or still is based in Sandy Springs, where I really got to focus and learn from the owner of the business. I got to work with some more high-end clients around their cybersecurity, data, and cloud initiatives. After about another 2 years of working there, this is now 2018, I decided to go back to school full time at Georgia State to get my master's in sports management. I've always been a huge gamer. I've always been a really big fan of traditional sports. Played college basketball, middle school, high school, really all the way throughout college. So really going back to Georgia State, it was my way of trying to figure out how I could leverage my passions, but also pair that with business to give back to communities that I've always wanted to support. And really help overcome economic and social issues. So after I left corporate America in 2018 to pursue school full time, I was actually working for a venture startup fund that was based here in Atlanta that invested in early stage media, sports, and entertainment companies. And through that process, I was really introduced to the business and esports in a very formal fashion. And I'll dive into this a little bit deeper, but through that introduction, really first and foremost, no longer being in a corporate setting, but then also being in this new space of esports and gaming, I started to see a huge trend that everyone here is so familiar with of the lack of representation, specifically in the esports industry, but overall in technology. So for me, I started to brainstorm pretty frequently on like, what are some ways that we could bring more diversity and equity to the gaming industry, specifically because being an HBCU alum, being African American myself, I knew so many of my friends and my family, my peers played video games, but when we would go to these various events, conferences or tournaments, there would literally be nobody that looked like me in the business summit or anyone that looked like us on stage competing. So what I'll go ahead and do is just quickly share my screen and walk through high level, really what community is and really how we're leveraging the angle of media, esports, gaming, and music to give back to underserved communities. Give me 1 second while I share my screen. So if there are any questions that come up, I'll be sure to address them towards the end of the presentation, just simply because I can't see. But to date now, our company community, our mission is to increase the participation of minorities in the esports and video game industry through STEM and STEAM development, where we give access to our where we allow our students to learn around information technology, STEM, live event production, and business management in a setting that's familiar and also very engaging with them around gaming. Why esports and why people should care. By the end of 2022, the esports market is expected to reach nearly $3 billion in annual revenue. What's really interesting is that the gaming industry is larger than the music, film, and television industries combined when you look at the amount of money it generates on an annual and global basis. So for us, it was always about how can we create a program that leverages this global phenomenon to give back to students that really looked like us growing up. So as early on, we were doing research and we found that nearly 83% of African American teens play video games on a weekly basis, but only 2% of the video game workforce currently is African American. So for us, that was a huge problem. And our main focus was how can we help turn the consumer and introduce them to ideas and concepts that help them to help them get more in a creator position and gain more equity within the space. So essentially what we began to identify is a traditional student journey that generally starts with an immersive learning curriculum that leads to scholarships, to mentorships, internships, ultimately full-time jobs. And at the end of the day, a lot of full-time jobs can transition to entrepreneurship type opportunities. So for us, what we do is what we have is our career readiness program, where we actually go into school systems in both the 9-week and 27-week format, and we teach underserved, or we provide resources to underserved institutions that cannot afford to bring in the appropriate resources or personnel to teach their students around content development, game design, industry operations within gaming, and then also data analytics and reporting. So our program is really designed to really bring forth full-time opportunities to kids that really want to learn about the gaming industry, but they don't have the resources financially, or even maybe just the general know-how of how to go down that lane. So over the course of those 9 weeks, we really focus on industry knowledge by partnering with leading companies like Riot Games, Activision Blizzard, and Electronic Arts that make titles that we're familiar with, like Call of Duty, Madden, and NBA 2K, really honing in on soft skill development, digital skill development that ultimately help determine the next steps for where a student should find internally what they're interested in from a career pathway standpoint. So we have a lot of targeted outcomes when it comes to measuring the effectiveness of our actual program, and ultimately the future application of where we like a lot of our students, their mental to go is towards career preparedness, but then also giving back in ways that they can improve their own local communities. And I know I'm kind of breezing through this, we're short on time, but more than happy to share this with anyone after the session, should you be interested. So really for us as a community, our core values to our students are direct access to scholarships, accredited curriculums within gaming, gaming related internships and mentorships. And then we also create and manage esports leagues for these students to go head to head, where they can also continue to win scholarship money and prize money. Our benefit to our school partners is that we provide access to video game publishers, quarterly career fairs where students can work and learn directly from hiring managers that are looking to hire in the type of skills that they're looking to hire at these companies. But then also to our corporate partners, we're able to provide them with diverse talent pools that are digitally literate. We are also helping these corporate partners develop brand and loyalty and brand affinity within the HBCU community. And then also, hire by hire, allowing them to break some of their systemic internal barriers that we all know corporate America has so many challenges of facing. So really what all that led to, on a more exciting note, is the inception and the creation of the first ever HBCU esports league that we own and manage to date. Essentially, we partnered with the United Negro College Fund to launch the first ever scholarship fund that is geared towards gaming and esports. So all of our schools and students that are able to participate within our league structure are able to get financial support through our partnership via the UNCF. Some other things to date, just general information for those who may be familiar. I know a lot of times, right, the HBCU community, a couple of names get called frequently, right? We hear the same 7 to 10 schools always be highlighted. So one of our main focuses, especially with our corporate partners, is ensuring that they know that there's well over 100 HBCUs in North America with a total student population of nearly 340,000 students. So even though our focus is around the HBCU community, we have to be sure that we're also being equitable, that we're not just serving or making sure that the same schools that traditionally get funding are also being served in that manner. So currently to date, if you can imagine, I think this is why we think this is very important, is that going into 2020, there were over 250 predominantly white institutions that had either esports programs, scholarships, and or varsity teams, and there were 0 HBCUs at the time. Currently, we have over 25 institutions that are competing within our league format or that we're supporting through scholarships or internship placement. And through our corporate partnerships, we've been able to commit this year alone over $1 million worth of technology and resource support to the HBCU gaming community. Within our first year, starting in last year, we're currently in our second season. We had over 14 million people tune into our programs with over 15 million minutes worth of content consumed. So as a startup ourselves, that's giving back through this manner, we had some pretty exciting milestones early on. that we're continuing to look to improve and build upon as we continue to grow and develop as an organization. But we couldn't do this without the help of a lot of our corporate sponsors that we're actually able to align with to bring our visions and bring this whole thing to life. So Twitch, a lot of people are familiar with. Verizon, Discover, and Microsoft are huge contributors and supporters. And as you can imagine, we align very well with brands that already have these D&I strategies and initiatives built into their programs or into their corporate company's DNA, but they don't always have the strategy or execution plan on how to bring it to life. So for us, that is where we really come in and provide value to a lot of our corporate partners, is specifically around their social impact and DEI execution arm. So pretty cool. This so far, we've done some pretty heavy lifts. This photo in the middle, this past year, we were able to partner with Microsoft and Xbox. We were able to take a couple of students out and host a Space Jam tournament live from Los Angeles at the purple carpet during the Space Jam premiere. So we continue to get to provide really unique opportunities to students within the HBCU community that really have always been overlooked, but also been huge gamers. There's now a very comfortable platform for them where they can give back. And this is just some like super light merchandise that we have available on our websites that we like to promote. But simple to that, I'll kind of come off sharing my screen now. And if there are just like any general questions, I'll pause there. But there we go. But really from that, I mean, as we are growing as an entity now, what we're really focused on is sharpening our message and telling our brand story, so we can continue to uplift not only the HBCU community or minority gamers at large, but also provide avenues for companies to give back in meaningful and authentic ways, which is something that we know has always been a really strong challenge for that to happen. I think one thing also that we learned early on, especially being a year and a half old company, is the importance of telling meaningful stories. I think for us, you know, my co-founder and myself, we're HBCU alum. So one thing is that always being authentic in our approach and how we are sharing we would like brands in the community to support us, but also giving real expectations of what support looks like versus just having very ambiguous and vague asks. And one of the key things that we found that have led us to continue to find these brand partners is just being intentional with our asks, but then also aligning directly with the brand morals and brand values that they currently share. As an example, we knew that Verizon is very, very big on providing digital literacy to minority communities or communities that are impacted by lack of access to bandwidth or Wi-Fi technology. So for us, being able to tell a story around helping HBCUs improve their connectivity, providing Wi-Fi or 5G connectivity to inner city students that attend Title I schools that were severely impacted by COVID, that a lot of times went overlooked in the news and the media. That provides opportunities for organizations like ours to really come in and provide, guidance, consulting as boots on the ground on meaningful ways that companies that have, $100 million investment budgets could give back to local communities that actually are meaningful in a certain way. So again, I don't necessarily know if there are any questions to date or so far from any of the people that are tuned in. But I'll take a quick 15-30-second pause if there are any questions before I continue. All right, perfect. So if not, I think another element, at least of what I wanted to kind of share, one about really brand building and giving back through digital media and philanthropy, is around building the community itself. I love to share the story of how we got started. Again, going back to both my co-founder and myself being HBCU alum. When we originally had the idea of community and also our HBCU esports league, it was really around starting where we came from. So I'm an alum of Oakwood University, a smaller HBCU that's based in Huntsville, Alabama. and Chris, who's my co-founder, attended North Carolina Central. So, excuse me. Early on, the original idea was that we could create scrimmages between our two schools in games like NBA 2K, Madden, Call of Duty, Fortnite, really to give those students a platform through our Twitch channel and some of our corporate partners to be highlighted and recognized in a way that they've never been done before. But what quickly ended up happening was the students from North Carolina Central reached out to the students at Johnson C. Smith. The students from Oakwood started to reach out to students from Alabama A&M. And before we knew it, we had a very authentic and genuine community of students, of gaming HBCU students that had for the first time ever really been directly connected to form their own community. So very quickly, we now have over 600 students within the HBCU space within the last year that call community their home. It's a space where they come and we can actively see it day to day in the chat, in the Discord chat. Students becoming friends, students beginning to stream together, students beginning to actually hop on Call of Duty and play. Although one may go to Morehouse, one may go to Morgan State, and the other one may go to Fisk University, they now feel as if they have a support vehicle where, you know, something that has never truly been highlighted on campus is now becoming a focal point and becoming a real meaningful destination for students who may not be into traditional athletics or traditional organizations or clubs on campus. So once we were able to identify that we actually had a real community that we could build around is when we really started to dive deeper with the actual HBCUs themselves. Taking the approach of leveraging our students to be introduced to faculty and staff that were also tasked with creating and managing these gaming programs on campus, but never really knew who the appropriate student was to actually be the glue to make the thing go forward. So working backwards, we then began to identify various stakeholders that now actually operate as our decision makers with the various activities and streams and things that we do with the campuses and students themselves. So building the community was a huge part for us. Now we do weekly activities with these kids, with corporate partners. We allow them to travel with us. With Verizon being one of our largest corporate brands, very often we are able to take students and fly them to Washington, D.C., where we're creating productions with people like Iman Shumpert and Jeezy, and HBCU students are able to interact and be a part of these different type of content pieces alongside some of their favorite influencers. So it gets really, really interesting when we took a very organic approach, something that a lot of people were passionate about being gaming, and built a business around the model of helping a brand give back to communities that they're looking to fund and support, but doing it through the lens of something engaging and entertaining like esports and video games. And I think one of the last points I want to cover was once we were able to establish, how did you learn more? Understood. Once we were able to establish the relationships with the corporate brands, one thing that was very awesome that happened was the natural synergies from various influencers and entertainers that wanted to throw their support behind that as well. So as an example, just this past weekend, we were able to partner with Michael B. Jordan and his agency WME to host his NBA 2K tournament that he's been planning for the last couple of months. It also worked with in the last few months with artists like Corday and other influencers that want to give back to HBCUs. So we've been able to position ourselves as a destination also for entertainers to align their brands with to support a very authentic and meaningful cause. And I guess in real time, to address Taylor's question, very transparently, it was just getting out there. Earlier on, I mentioned when I first moved to Atlanta, my first 4 years in corporate America, I actually spent working in technology sales. So I had an affinity for getting out and networking and always going to various events and meeting new people and just learning, understand what's valuable to them. But then also did a great job of leveraging the tool of LinkedIn to provide and connect with people, comment under their pictures, and really build relationships over time. So by the time I actually decided to start my own organization, I had a pretty significant Rolodex of people to at least reach out to that I at least knew they may not give me money or give me the full support, but at a bare minimum, I knew that they would listen. And sometimes that was really all that was needed, was someone to listen, provide feedback, and make recommendations, or at a bare minimum, also provide introductions. So that was how we really were able to make, those larger brand connections, was really just through like boots on the ground, very much reaching out guerrilla marketing style. But then also once we got their attention and were able to have a first phone call, be able to provide them with programming that was not only one that was we were able to provide them with programming that was sustainable over a 12 to 24-month period, that they could see their investment measuring over time. But then also in those conversations, it was just asking the question about, what are some of your philanthropic and social impact goals for the next 5 years? Surprisingly enough, most companies have foundations. So we also just did a job of Googling like the Verizon Foundation and trying our best to understand, from their lens as a corporation, what is going to be important to them over the next 5 to 10 years. So as we are catering our pitch and our conversation to a company like Verizon, which will be significantly different than a company like Coca-Cola, we are at least having a conversation that is parallel to the same things that they're looking to accomplish as well. So that's where it really came back to like having a very meaningful and then authentic story, one that a brand can easily see themselves aligning and buying into without them having to put front a lot of effort themselves. Sorry, I just need to grab some water. So I hope that answered your question to some degree. But no, and I do know for like at least these last couple of minutes, definitely open to any other questions, comments, thoughts, feedback that anyone may have. But if not, there is a little bit more that I believe I could share that could be helpful. And I guess another point too is without fully knowing essentially like who's on the other side of or kind of tuned into this, I guess we're entering into a really unique time, right? I mean, there's a huge topics right now going on of Web3, the metaverse, NFTs, crypto, and I think for us now also we're kind of tapping in, also tapping into like so what does social impact or equality look like in Web3, right? Considering that although it is a huge topic of conversation, there are some significant upfront costs that it takes to be inclusive into this space. So we're actually starting to, actively brainstorm and think around, how can we provide resources and tools specifically to communities of color, similar to how we're doing in traditional gaming and esports, but as a precursor to Web3 into the metaverse. So looking at things like, or industries like play to earn, where, we have games right now like NBA 2K or Call of Duty as an example, where the more time or the better you are spent with inside of the game, you earn virtual currency that allows you to purchase in-game items. Well, there are now game titles that are in this new industry called play to earn, where you're actually playing games, you're earning cryptocurrency. You're able to then transfer that currency to your local currency and use that for day-to-day activities. There's really interesting case studies where this is happening in the Philippines. And in the last year and some change, families in the Philippines are making more money doing play to earn than they were doing in their day labor jobs previous to the pandemic. So us as an organization where we really are trying to leverage gaming as a tool for social impact, are also tapping in and just exploring other avenues of play to earn. And I think another really interesting concept now is like learn to earn. How can we create systems that are democratized where minority students can actually earn money for learning different academic proficiencies, just as we were able to do growing up in school. So for an example, your point of how are games able to monetize, because like we're huge in ed tech. So games are able to monetize simply because they're on the blockchain and they're leveraging cryptocurrency. So me as a player can accumulate whatever that game is using as its token or as its coin, and then that is the means that the publisher in that sense is using to actually pay out its players in that play to earn market. So it is a really interesting and very, very new concept. But even from an ed tech platform as well, it provides the opportunities now for that same play to earn model to work within an academic setting. So in my very euphoric world, we would like to see this idea of where, you know, we can create these elite like private schools where you get top line teachers, top line curriculum, top line facilities, and a lot of that is being driven by students' academic, you know, growth and matriculation, because a lot of those bills are now being paid through this economy of learning to earn. What are open Black communities? And I'll be honest, Michael, you know, one thing that we're kind of looking to do is identify some of those communities. Me myself, you know, selfishly, outside of what we are trying to build, you know, we haven't yet identified what a true Black community looks like in the metaverse or crypto NFT space. What I will say is that, you know, there are more influencers or artists of color that are now getting into that. So as an example, a couple of weeks ago, Takeoff from the Migos just launched his Board and Space Apes collection, NFT collection. And I was just like kind of playing around with the Discord, and there were some over 100,000 members in this Discord server. So I think over time, you're going to have people creating these communities and people joining in masses. But as of right now, I don't even have a direct answer for you. And that's something that we're actually working towards as well. And yeah, no, Taylor, I would love to connect with you. I mean, our goal is to work with school systems. All of what I've mentioned to you over the course of this presentation, we actually do not charge any of our schools. We do not charge any of our students. Our goal is to get all of that outsourced and funded through our corporate partners. So if there's a way that we can come into Detroit very selfishly, we have reached out to like Big Sean, who is a massive gamer, and he's always looking to give back in very creative ways. You know, that's something that we're actively looking to do. So if we could connect offline and talk a little bit more, I think that would be phenomenal. And I guess what I would do is leave this open again for a couple more minutes for questions. But that was really the totality of what I wanted to share this afternoon, or at least on this presentation. And so now I'm really just appreciative of the time. I know this is scheduled until 2:45, so I'm here to hang out and really address anything else that may come up. But if not, what I'll go ahead and do for the people that are tuned in is I will drop my LinkedIn URL. So if anyone does just want to stay in touch, I'm always open to new conversations, new ideas. Yeah, absolutely. I will share my LinkedIn profile now. Give me 1 second. So I just dropped my LinkedIn profile. As I mentioned, always open to connecting. And again, formats like this are also awesome for us. And I will share for those who may just want to stay up to date, and for those who may be gamers, we do like random weekly competitions, giveaways. We gave away a brand new Xbox and PS5 like last week. So I will share our Discord server if any of you all want to stay in touch that way as well. Just give me like 10 more seconds while I pull that up. Okay. Great. But no, I really do thank you all for this opportunity. Just for those that kind of stood in and listened, really exciting times ahead for us as a startup. We're based here in Atlanta. Quickly grew from a team of just myself to a team of 20. So we are actively here. We frequently work out at the gathering spot. So if you see us around or want to grab coffee, drinks, dinner, whatever, uh, we're here for it. So thank you all. Hope you have a good rest of your day.